I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
Remco Evenepoel ignited a nation for 3 weekends in a row. After finishing on the Tour de France podium and winning the gold medal at the Olympics time trial, he became the first male cyclist to win gold in the TT and the road race. Some of us have even called Remco the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and it may surprise you, and it wasn't even me. I'm joined today by one of them who did say it, but I'm joined today by Domestique's Ethan and Eve. How are you guys doing?
Very good.
Yeah, very good.
Awesome. How did you guys experience the road race, Eve?
Well, it was phenomenal. It was won by the GOAT, like you already mentioned, the greatest of all time. Well, no, jokes aside, the Remco Evenepoel is only 24 years old, and the palmarès he already has at this age is phenomenal. The GOAT discussion is something else. We have a certain Slovenian Pogačar in that discussion as well. Older people maybe even say Merckx, others say no. But still, what Remco Evenepoel is achieving at this age and still with 10 plus years to go in his career, it's phenomenal. And the way he's riding, yeah, no words.
Nice to finally have you on the hype train, Eve. Take a seat. Ethan, what do you think of the road race?
I think overall, in terms of the fan atmosphere, and in general, I think, does it beat the Ronde van Vlaanderen? I mean, I was at the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and that was probably an all-timer experience. But yeah, I think I've seen on the statistics, 500,000 people were out on the street, which is crazy, isn't it? The atmosphere, all the Belgians, the scene, Average Rob, and all the other Belgians on some corner. It looked very, very cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like up Montmartre, the atmosphere there, the scene's just incredible. Remco's now won double Olympic medals, double world's titles, double national titles, one European title on the TT. The only thing missing in his cabinet of championships is the European road race. Do you think he will try harder to make that a goal?
I don't think it will be a goal. It's probably something that's on his mind, but I don't think it's a main goal or goal of the season. He has bigger targets like winning the 3 Grand Tours at the end of his career. He's going for the Ronde van Vlaanderen next year as well, if you can believe Patrick Lefevre, Milan-San Remo as well. So that are races that should suit him as well. And yeah, he will line up at the start in the Euros road race eventually, but I don't think it's a real goal. And I think we had a discussion on Discord last week. Without Colbrelli a few years ago, just sticking to his will and beating him in the sprint, he would have got that title as well. So yeah, insane. I already mentioned it, but I don't think it will be a goal.
Mm-hmm. I think this year as well, it's going to be very tough. Although the European Championship is in Belgium, that would be amazing to complete the full set in Belgium. But it is 2 weeks ahead of the Worlds.
As well, not really suited to him as well, the parkour, I think, as well. So yeah, I mean, I would love it if he won there because I'm going to be there. So yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think saying that parkour doesn't suit him is a risky move. The parkour where he won the Belgian road race championship also didn't suit him. He still won it. So I think he can surprise. And even on that parkour, it could be a surprise. But I don't think he's going to be selected with the Worlds coming up 2 weeks later. He's going to probably prepare for that.
He's preparing in Tour of Britain before the week before the European Championships. I think he's doing the Tour of Britain. So yeah,
but that's not
I've seen that
100% yet. I saw an article from Lefebvre saying he's probably participating, but it can still change. Said Patrick.
Depends on how much a Tour of Britain is paying, I'm guessing. All right. As you said, next year he's going to do Milan-San Remo and the Ronde van Vlaanderen. Do you think he has a chance in those races?
Milan-San Remo, I'd say maybe. His sprint keeps surprising me personally, and I think a lot of people underrate his sprint. I think, what race was it? Was it? I think last year, and in September, was it San Sebastian? I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, where he in 1v1 sprint. Who was it against? Maybe Bilbao?
Bilbao. Yeah,
Yeah, beating Bilbao
Okay.
is no slouch in a sprint, is it? Let's be honest.
No,
that's very true.
So yeah,
but
but the pace that needs to be set in Milan San Remo for him to win, as we've seen Philipsen survive. So yeah,
Yeah, I think in both those races he's gonna hit Pogacar, who's a very similar type to him, and probably more explosive.
yeah,
So it is difficult to win this race, but I do think it's in his capabilities.
definitely.
but I think we have to count the fact in that it's going to be his first participation in the Tour of Flanders, and I think we can all agree on the fact that having some experience in the Tour of Flanders really is beneficial for your chances later on in the race. Yes, the team is very experienced in the classics work, but still he will probably waste a little bit more energy at the early part of the race, and then maybe he can miss that little percentage at the end. Plus, is he that explosive on cobbled climbs than that he is on smooth road climbs, to call it like that? I don't know. I don't know. He's very powerful when he's pushing from the saddle, but still on cobbles is something different. And you have, like you mentioned, a Pogacar, Van der Poel, who are very explosive, who have that peak 30 seconds, 1 minute power. That's phenomenal. But he will be close, and I'm sure he will be back after next year. So 2025 will not be the only year that he's participating at the Tour of Flanders, I think.
I'd say 2025, I think, is a bit throwing himself in the deep end and just learning. I think is a learning year. But if he was to win, obviously he would probably have to go from very far out. So yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the article with Patrick Lefevre, the same article as I mentioned earlier. He mentioned Remco is only 24 years old. It's different than if he would be 32. He's still so young. He still needs to gain experience. It's weird to say, but still. And it's time to do and try new things. Like we saw Pogacar try this year Giro and Tour. The guys want to be challenged at a young age, and they have the power and the character to do it. So I think they are just looking for new challenges, so they aren't bored when they are 30.
Definitely. Well, let's get back to the topic of the podcast, the Olympics. Although I would love to talk about Remco the whole time. That's my favorite subject, but we'll move back to the Olympics. So I was just gonna run through the flow of the race. Of course, we reviewed it quite heavily with it being very unpredictable. Breakaway formation actually went surprisingly smooth, in my opinion.
Very
Five
smooth.
guys just rode away, not much to do about it. None of the bigger cycling countries really got involved. That was kind of a surprise for me.
Same. Although I saw things on X saying, teams are very small, 4, 3, or even less riders in a team. So if you already burn one in the breakaway formation and it doesn't stick, or then you're in trouble later on in the race. So I was mentioning in the preview, if I would be the Netherlands or Belgium, I would send someone with the breakaway. But when I looked at the race, then it's quite logical that they didn't attempt it, certainly with the countries that were interested in the break, without disrespect to the riders, to be clear. But it's not, you already knew that they wouldn't stick till the end.
No, although at one point they did get a massive advantage.
13 or 14 minutes, wasn't it? I
I
think.
think it was 15 at one point.
Yeah, 15. And then the
So-
guy in the breakaway from, was it Uganda? The guy is a follower of Domestique, so I think we should give a shout out to him. So yeah, and you did a good effort.
Definitely. He was also the biggest rider. I don't have his name in front of me, so that's a little bit.
Charles something.
Kahimu.
Well, okay.
Kahimu.
Okay.
Yes, there you go.
Perfect. So Denmark and the Netherlands chase for, what was it, about 50, 60 Ks, and then just pull the plug. Björk comes, Murkov comes to the front, tells Björk, like, just stop. This doesn't work. We need more help. And then basically we saw something that we very rarely see in the pro peloton. Basically, they stood still. They were going 20 Ks an hour up until a group with Viviani, Syriza, and Mullen takes off, and the Greek, I forgot his name. And then we suddenly see
Burgos team, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think he does ride for Burgos. But my name is slipping.
Buglas.
Buglas,
Yeah,
that's the one. After that, the chase starts up again, but it did give the breakaway basically 6 or 7 extra minutes. And it now sits at 15 minutes. But the chase starts off again with now Belgium also helping with Benoot. That was quite a poker move from the Netherlands and Denmark, wasn't it? Or was it just cheeky from Belgium to not help from the start?
I think,
Cheeky.
cheeky from the Belgians. I was going to say the same, because I saw an article with Van Baarle that the Netherlands were quite annoyed with the way Belgium was riding, certainly the first couple of hours. So yeah, it was a big balls play by Van Turnhout, or the Belgian squad itself, probably Van Turnhout who decided it. So yeah, and all the countries just waited till Belgium came to the front. So yeah, it was just cheeky, a tactic. I don't know what's the benefit of that tactic. What the benefit was, to be honest. Like, you saved a bit of energy, but the whole bunch saved energy. Did it make the race harder? I don't know if you guys have an idea about that.
Yeah, apparently the goal was that when then Benoot did have to start working, that he would do it at a pace that was less than comfortable for most, so that he would ride at a harder pace than he would normally have been chasing a breakaway, to put already a little bit of hurt in the legs. Because the chasing a breakaway pace is one thing, but then actually like putting some hurt on, that was something else.
You set some strong pace as well. That must be said. Poof. I don't know how many kilometers he rid on the front for, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so we have that group up the road. I think Syriza and Buglas drop off, and then in the peloton we have basically the final opening with, well, first a small attack from Novak, and then I think Madouas really opens the final with an attack of 93 Ks to go. Basically that launches a whole series of attacks. I think G, Healy, who else? Like, there were a lot.
Koen was already involved in there as well, very early on. But it's pretty crazy to see Madouas already for the first time at the front with 93 Ks to go. And knowing what happened further on in the race, the guy had a magnificent day. I think he said it was his best day ever on the bike. And yeah, he showed it. He showed it to us during the race. But yeah, from then on it was mayhem. A lot of riders up the road. Then yeah, it was actually insane. There wasn't control. We already knew in the preview that it would be very difficult to control the race, because yeah, you don't know how much riders you can use before the local lap in Paris, because the race was already pretty hard before the local lap. But yeah, from that moment on, we knew that it was on for the remainder of the race.
Yeah, we basically have a pretty strong group riding away there. I think a little bit surprising that nobody from Belgium was in that group. I think that was definitely why Steven was I think it was Steven's jobs to be in that group, but he just didn't make it. And then Healy takes off like an absolute madman. I think like Healy is one of those guys, we've also talked about it in preview, that if he had ridden smarter, would he have gotten a medal?
That's
That's
Like
the
if he had
problem with him,
stayed
I
in the
think, as well.
Madouas group, if he
He,
had stayed in
he,
that group,
that's the problem with Healy because my opinion, he attacks very stupidly. Is that to put it lightly? Or yeah,
yeah.
but attacking stupidly. If he rides definitely smarter, he probably could even got a Tour de France stage win. I'll be honest as well. As well. In the Madouas group,
But
third place if you didn't. Nah, it's too.
I think it's
It's too
difficult to
hard to
answer the
call.
yeah. I
It is
think it's
difficult.
difficult
Yeah.
to answer if he would have gotten a medal, but if he would have ridden a little bit more conservatively, then maybe he would have been able to stick with Evenepoel when it mattered.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it's the strength of Healy to do things like that, or it's stupid attacks. Yeah, maybe. But maybe he doesn't has that one explosion in the legs. I don't know how I can put
He's
it
not
into
really
words.
explosive, is he? Really, just like go from far and just hold it. Really.
Yeah, and like when he attacks, it's always 2, 3, 4 times till he gets the gap. It's not like it's one boom and he's gone. So maybe if Remco goes, he wouldn't be able to follow him because that's that one boom that he should have need to stay on the wheel. Yeah, but then of course if he stayed in the Madouas group, it's difficult. But he had a stellar race.
of course, Remco is very comparable in that sense, where he did also need a couple of attacks to go.
Yeah.
He had to try, I think, 3 times, although the first 2 were kind of just testing the legs perhaps and testing who would respond. But in my opinion, if Healy sticks to that Madouas group, he had a very good chance of also sticking to that wheel and maybe sticking to it even longer than Madouas. I would definitely rate him as that. There was a mechanical for Mats Pedersen right before Montmartre. Was that just race over for him? I mean, he manages to come back, but that effort must have been gigantic.
Well, he wasted quite a bit of energy to chase back. It was the moment Van der Poel dropped his first bomb, first and only real bomb on the first ascent of Montmartre. I think Evenepoel, there was discussion on our server, Domestique server on Discord as well, that the mechanical of Mats Pedersen saved the race of Evenepoel because Denmark had to chase back the group with Van der Poel, with Van Aert. Do I agree with that? Not completely. If you saw how Evenepoel, how easy he was still riding in that chasing group, he would have jumped towards it as well if necessary, I think. But yeah, Mats Pedersen cut off his legs completely there, I think, to chase back before Montmartre and get back to the bunch. The bunch was small, but still you have to get to the front, and then immediately that explosive power was maybe a bit too much for even for Pedersen.
Yeah, and then obviously you get the attacks afterwards, and then burning all that energy to even try and get back. It's just you're not going to be able to compete with it. But going back to the Van der Poel attack, I thought that was a bit too early. I don't know what you guys think about that.
With the limited amount of climbs that is on the circuit,
one more lap, I think.
Yeah, but he tried again in the next lap. He tried every time, but it just didn't happen. You have a very strong Wout van Aert who manages to hold on to the wheel. So it was kind of surprising that they didn't ride on as much as they did. But I think the second climb up Montmartre, they actually rode it up faster than the first time. So that first attack, I don't know if it was fully flat out, but it's what Mathieu van der Poel needs to do. He needs to make it a super hard race. So to attack there, it's the right move.
I don't know if you guys had the same idea, but this wasn't the best Van der Poel we saw.
Yeah, definitely. I think if he's seen his Ronde van Vlaanderen form, if he had that in the Olympics, he'd absolutely. Would he blow everyone out of the water?
He would just ride away.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, you completely blown them away. From what we've seen in the Ronde van Vlaanderen, poof. And obviously Paris-Roubaix as well. But if Wout was in his form, would he go? I don't know. But also, I want to mention one more guy who did not actually participate in the Olympics. If Pogačar raced that, does he win it?
No.
I'd say yes.
I
But you
think
have
he
to.
runs into the team issue with if Evenepoel goes in the same exact spot, who's going to chase? Tretnik was already in front.
But
Who's
what if you
gonna?
do a long range attack?
But yeah, you have to keep in mind with the season he already had. He had the Giro in his legs. He has a Tour in his legs. It's not like he will be fully fresh at the start of the Olympics in Paris. Remember Glasgow last year? He was suffering massively as well because the fatigue of the season really kicked in. So yeah, he would
But
have.
people keep saying that though, and then he just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
But
there's a reason he said he wouldn't do this. He said he was fatigued. So we also have to believe that to some degree.
Like he's a phenomenon. Don't understand me wrong. He's one of a kind, but it ends at one point in the season for him as well. And he only has that one goal, and it's take the World Championship jersey away from Mathieu van der Poel on a course that suits him way more than Paris 2024.
Mhm.
So yeah, he has the week of rest now, the 2 weeks of rest, and he's already preparing for Zurich, I assume. So yeah, we will see a phenomenal Pogačar at the Worlds, but I don't think he would have had an easy race in Paris, and I don't think he would have won it, to be honest.
I
agree.
I don't know if that's controversial, you know.
Yeah, he would have been close. It's Pogačar. If he's not close, then something is wrong. But yeah, I stick with my point on that one.
The hit list is gonna go even like that. But yeah, going back to the World Championships, it's gonna be more than phenomenal. I think he's going to destroy it, isn't he? So yeah.
Right, you never know. There's Primoz Roglic in the squad as well, so he might be leader.
Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, the attack from Van der Poel, neutralized by Wout van Aert perfectly. Alaphilippe, Jorgensen, and Squinch bridge over. That was a bit of a tongue twister, my bad. Super good Alaphilippe, actually. We were maybe making a bit light of the Czech Tour last week in the preview, saying like it's just a Czech Tour. What can you conclude from that? But I think we can conclude from this Olympics that we actually saw potentially like a very close to his all-time best form back of Alaphilippe.
Yeah, it's just the course is probably like the most similar course to Leuven 2021, I'd say as well. That helps. And also being at home in France, it probably is like basically being on drugs in quotation marks. So, yeah. It's great to see
Dangerous thing to say in cycling.
Well, obviously he's not on drugs, but yeah. It's great to see Alaphilippe as well doing that as well, because obviously with the past year he's had, it's always great.
Will he stick to Soudal Quickstep next season, or is he going to a French team to earn way more money?
Stay at Soudal Quickstep.
Really? Do you think he stays?
I think everyone keeps saying he's going to stay, so I think he'll stay as well.
But there are rumors that Ethan Hayter is going to Soudal Quickstep, so Alaphilippe is Domestique from 2025 on.
I don't want to have this discussion.
Go for it, Bram. Come on.
I'm not going to talk about Ethan Hayter. But if Alaphilippe stays, I think the entire narrative of, oh, he's getting bullied by Patrick Lefevre, then that needs to stop, because if he signs a new contract, then he's like, he knows what he's getting into. And going to a French team, I would say, okay, yeah. But that would also be kind of career over, and it'd be kind of sad because he's at great form right now.
Is it?
He's going to Cofidis. I saw the article from Teuns saying there is a very strong core lined up for the classic season next year. And then I was looking at the squad list from Cofidis, and I said, where are the strong riders? So I assume Alaphilippe is going to Cofidis to.
Yeah, but they are doing some very, very like shrewd signings, really. Like
Yeah,
people who can do dirty work and stuff like that for classics. So to
I
get
mean,
Alaphilippe in, it's not bad.
they need to because they're in risk of
yeah,
uh,
relegation.
relegation. That was the word. So they have to spend the money. Is Alaphilippe the right rider for it? Maybe.
I mean, who else can they get? Let's be honest.
Probably, but I would prefer to keep seeing him at Quickstep. Back to the Olympics again. We were having a lot of sidetracks today. I'm sorry about that. It comes back together. The 5 or 6 are caught. Pedersen basically closes the gap with Remco in the group, and then Remco goes basically off camera. We just suddenly see him solo. Was that the perfect timing?
Yes.
Definitely.
All right, we all agree.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. He basically, what is it, within 30 seconds bridges to the group with Madua, Kung, Woods, whatever. Like they were 20 seconds, 25 seconds ahead, and then suddenly he's just there. That was actually insane. Then we have, of course, the team tactics starting to come up. Van Baarle has to start chasing because, of course, everyone kind of realizes the danger that Evenepoel poses. You can't just let him ride. Then we do another lap, and first Healy is caught by that chasing group, and when I say chasing group, it's really now just Remco. I think there was like 100 meters where other riders took over, but like the effort that Remco had to do there to just pull that group away and then like catch Healy, that was insane.
Yeah, and there were some stupid moves there because Remco joined and he went straight to the front, pushing it to get in front as much as possible and to catch Healy. But at that moment there was only 1 or 2 riders who were participating, and one of them was Stefan Kung. Again, he loves to race and to join and to cooperate in that group. But at that moment, in my opinion, he had to sit and wait and hope and pray he would be able to follow Evenepoel because he knew he would be dropped on the second ascent of Montmartre. So that was a bit stupid, is a little bit harsh maybe, but you need a little bit of racecraft, and I think Kung misses that to get that big win. To just sit on and pray that Remco doesn't go too fast.
So basically he puts the pace up on the front of the group, and one by one, all the riders of that group have to let go. That's actually just, he didn't attack that group a single time, did he? No.
Am I the only one who has difficulties understanding the laws of cycling when I see Evenepoel attack? He just stays in the saddle, pushes 100 watts more, checks behind his shoulder. Everyone is suffering like hell, and he goes. It doesn't even seem to hurt him that much. It's like, let's go, YOLO.
It's what we've seen since the juniors, right? When he won in Innsbruck, where he puts a pace up, and whoever can follow, but it usually ends up being nobody. It is insane. It just looks so controlled.
Yeah. That's always it. Most of his attacks just look controlled. You don't really see like a completely like berserker one, like I don't know, Tour.
In Liège, he did some, but
Liège is flipping. That's a flipping all-timer, I think, if I'd say that myself.
It's just he squeezes the opposition to death.
By the throat, and like choke, and then you're gone.
Like you saw Madouas standing on the pedals, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and Evenepoel was still so controlled, and you saw his face for a model was yeah,
I'm going to say the analogy here.
pain.
He's like Darth Vader, basically. I think he's doing the with the force. He's just like on the pedals, and then the suffering.
All
It's
right.
insane.
So second lap of Montmartre, another insane attack from Van der Poel. I think this one they did do it faster in the first ascent. Again, neutralized by Wout van Aert. I think he played the perfect teammate here. It's a shame not to see Van Aert get a big win of his own, but he's making a name for himself to be the perfect teammate.
He was pushed into this role
Yeah, I think he
again.
was pushed as well.
I think one way or other it will hurt him that it happened again. Of course, he crashed later on in the race as well. But yes, Belgium took that Olympic gold, but he's almost 30 or already 30, Van Aert. I don't
I think
know
it's
his
29,
exact age.
28, something like that.
So he's getting older, and yeah, the career he's had so far is just not there yet. Always those second places,
Yeah,
always mentioned as being that perfect teammate, like he did in Wollongong as well. He did some good work behind Remco as well, if I recall correctly. But yeah, he will be happy for Remco, I'm sure, because they were getting along pretty good. I saw on Instagram, etc., better than he did last year. But yeah, it's yeah. I don't think he really likes it to be in this role again. But he did the perfect job as a teammate. But yeah,
yeah. And there's the fans as well of Wout and Van Aert, and then they all say they wanted to win, obviously, and stuff like that. But as well with his age, let's be honest, his time is ticking, isn't it? There's only probably one more Olympics he can do, which is in what is it, Los Angeles?
yeah,
Um, there's not many chances of ever getting an Olympic gold in your lifetime, is there, as an athlete? And being a second man,
I
I think
mean,
it's going to continuing.
he has 2
Brilliant.
Olympic medals now, I think, or is it even 3? 2.
three, two. Sorry.
So that is, that's in my opinion also a career achievement. It might not be the golden one, but it's still impressive. But I also do have to mention the coach of the Belgian team, Van Toornout.
Yeah.
The fact that he manages to create this type of team with Van Aert and Evenepoel after what happened in Leuven, where those two seemed like they would never be able to ride successfully together. We've now seen them do it multiple times to incredible degrees. That accomplishment of the coach that needs to be recognized as well.
Yeah, he created a lethal duo. The team knows they can wait on a sprint with Wout, and then they have Remco who just goes long, makes the race hard. That's beneficial for Wout as well, and that can do a solo for 50Ks. Remco if he wants to. So yeah, it's a perfect combination to have that in one team in one country. Yeah, is a real benefit to race, but they have 2 strong personalities. They are 2 very true champions. So you have to make them work together. And we saw in Leuven that was difficult. I think they learned a lot of lessons after that. Bad race in Leuven, and right now it's insane. You made a tweet on Saturday evening after the race, and you listed up all the medals that the team got when he was leading it. Van Toornout, yeah, it's insane.
It was 27 medals, cyclocross included, 15 on the road. That's incredible. People want to compare to Veuclair, who we're going to talk about in a bit as well, about the French team. He has 10 and is heralded as a great coach, although I do think the Belgian team has been able to work with a little bit higher quality riders. That does need to be mentioned. still a massive achievement to get those two on the same page. So basically, Remco then drops Madouas because we could all see that was going to happen eventually. Madouas' face was contorting in very weird shapes. And then that would happen at 15 to go, and with 3 to go, my heart stops because there's suddenly Remco standing still with his bike on side of the road saying, I need a bike, because he has a puncture. Honestly, I did not know that the car was behind him with spare bike. That was like, oh my God, he's going to have to wait 3 minutes to get his bike.
That was like a AG2 or brown shorts moment if you did, wasn't it? I think maybe even more than that, But yeah, very lucky. I think Josh said it on the Discord and also X. He's very lucky because due to the narrow nature of the circuit, he was surprised that the Belgian team car was allowed that far up or something like that.
Yeah, he also didn't have the minute ahead of Madouas, so I don't think there really should have been a car there. But maybe like they had the car stood still at the parkour and slipped in through some other ways to get him there. But yeah, that was. I was like, no, please, no.
Really,
How do you guys experience that moment?
I started laughing because I know what would happen, because I know you'd absolutely completely like shit yourself basically at that moment in time. But yeah, if that came back, I didn't imagine Madouas when I won. It would have been like the 14th of July in France, where they just party, fireworks everywhere. But would it be an all-timer moment if he actually lost?
I think it's comparable
Like
to
the most iconic
Liverpool
moments.
crash in the Worlds, where Remco didn't know that he had enough of a lead. There was, because of the lack of radio communication, he didn't know his advantage, so he just had to. He basically panicked and straight onto his bike and like his arm tapping his wrist, saying like, "What's the time?" So it must be so stressful. I think that was his peak heart rate right there of the whole race.
And imagine the scenes in the team car when they saw he put his hands up, and then he stops 15-20 meters further, and then okay, go. So
the mechanic did a very good job. Like the pressure on that
even jumped out of the car, because probably normally that's not allowed to. That the driver of the car is hopping out of the car. But yeah, I think Fontuno just said, "Screw that! You can fine me for it. I'm just making sure Remco gets to the line in first." But yeah, it was part of the heroic aura of the race.
Definitely. But I'm so glad that there was a car behind him. Madouas holds on for second very narrowly, and then Laporte wins a sprint for third, as we kind of talked about in our preview, that Laporte would be one of those riders for a group sprint behind. So France winning second and third, that's an incredible result. We may have underestimated them in our preview.
Was it the Bram curse?
Oh, it could be.
Yeah, then it's the same old saying, isn't it? But yeah, for France, being in the Home Olympics as well, that gives them obviously extra motivation. We've seen Madio in, I don't know if anyone else has seen it. Obviously, you probably have seen it on social media, where he's going absolutely berserk on the commentary at the finish line. So yeah, France as well. Underestimating them in the preview. We definitely did.
All right, that's that settled, Eve. We underestimated them.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I think we underrated the overall strength of the squad, but we predicted it pretty good that Alaphilippe would be good in the race. But yeah, I didn't expect, mostly Madouas to be that strong, because he was quite anonymous in the Tour de France peloton.
Yeah.
So yeah, he went under my radar. He flew under my radar perfectly. So yeah, kudos to him and apologies to Claire and the country France for me and Bram that we underestimated the team, because I don't want another country hate me. I already have part of Slovenia who doesn't like me, so sorry, French.
And the UK now as well.
We're adding a couple of countries every year. By the end of this podcast, who knows? Well, that was kind of it for the road race. But who was your biggest surprise? Was it Madouas or someone else?
It's got to be Madouas, hasn't it? Let's be honest.
Madouas.
I think so as well. If we look at the top 10, maybe Walter is also surprising in fourth. But Madouas with silver medals, for me, definitely the biggest surprise.
Actually, in general, the top 10 isn't really what I expected it to be. Like Squeens, I expected him to be strong, but not a top 10 rider. Marco Haller.
No. We also kind of disrespected him in the preview.
Yeah, but that were the
Haller,
riders.
Yeah.
Dieter were mentioning.
Dieter mentioned Haller, yeah, very strong rider. And likes distance as well. Same as Scoins, he also likes the distance.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd expect maybe a few more, in quotation marks, big names in the top 10, I'll be honest.
Let's maybe go to that. Who's your biggest disappointment?
Michael Matthews, I'd say. Because he got obviously the Ronde van Vlaanderen sprint, where obviously was relegated very, very harshly. But like, I've seen it on X as well. People like say that guy needs to attack more. He just doesn't do anything. He just sits there and watches. Like, if he attacked, you've seen his breakaway victory in the Tour de France 2022. That was from him attacking. Michael Matthews has the potential to do that, but I don't know why he doesn't do it. And with the Australian team that was there, it was actually enough to support him, in my opinion.
It was Ben O'Connor and Simon Clark. I think
that's enough to support him, at least to try something.
They both finished more than 2 minutes behind him.
Yeah.
Oh, and for me, the biggest disappointment was Biniam Girmay. Finished 49th, over 7 minutes down.
I think
for
that's
me, it's Narvaez.
Narvaez, yeah. Biniam Girmay he's left alone, isn't he? He's a lone wolf.
So is Narvaez.
Right.
I think
EPO was saying about the distance of Girmay. Girmay really struggles with long distance races, doesn't he?
He won Gent Wevelgem.
Well, obviously, we'll get him in terms of that, but like with like elevation and things like that, like this parkour, I'm sure I've seen that he said he struggles with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in our preview stars, there were no stars for Girmay, which I thought was a little bit of a surprise. I expected pretty big things from him after his Tour de France shape, but no, I also think that it didn't quite help that even between the TT and the road race, he was doing a crit. That's not going to help you with your recovery from the Tour.
Money, isn't it? And again, they get paid.
It's a green jersey. You got to make the most money from it as you can.
Would any Team GB rider was a disappointment? Pidcock, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know if it's
harsh. I don't know if it's harsh after his mountain bike heroics, obviously, but you expect maybe a little bit more. I generally don't think I even seen him on the TV.
I think he stuck to Van der Poel's wheel at the end, and he was in the group where Van Aert crashed as well. So
anonymous.
13th place.
Before we move on to the women's race, I would like to add something. I was the one who posted the GOAT tweet about Remco Evenepoel. I know the word GOAT is used lightly nowadays, but Remco Evenepoel is one of the most underrated riders in the pro peloton. I think Bram can agree on the fact that I wasn't and I'm not the biggest fan of Remco Evenepoel. I have been hard against him, but what he's achieving at this young age, not a lot of riders have done it in the past like what he's doing right now. So, and still he gets so much hate. So much people who are arguing about that he's one of the best riders in the current pro peloton, and I just don't get it. He worked on his personality as well. If we hop back 3 to 4 years ago, he was the little bastard. Like during Thomas Calden, he was a real bastard. But if we see now, 3 4 years later, how much he developed as a person as well, he's having joy on the bike. He thinks more before he says things. He still has that thin line around him, like when he finishes that he does it like this. But it's Remco, and we don't have to change him completely. But I just want to say, respect Evenepoel. He's a gift for pro cycling.
I think that's the problem though as well, because obviously going back to 3 or 4 years when he was that persona about him, people have instantly judged him from that, and they're not going to change their opinion nowadays. People judge obviously by their cover and not the book. So yeah, but hopefully nowadays, now that he's changed himself and he's literally gone viral. The stuff you see now with the Remco Evenepoel on X and all of the social medias, he's gonna have a lot of new fans.
Yeah, and personally, I always thought that that person that you're saying that he changed into, that was always what was underneath, but there was too much like acting on impulse on top of it. I think that's the sort of edges that he's been able to file off, where he keeps his head cool a little bit more. But deep down, he was always that same person. And when you're talking about Palmares, nobody has ever done what he's done with the amount of championships that he's been able to collect. Of course, if you want to compare to Merckx, there are races that weren't there back then. You have the Euros, you have the time trial world championship. It didn't even exist back then. So it is hard to compare, but it is incredible to see what he's doing. He might not be the Grand Tour rider that a Pogačar is, or not yet. But what he's doing at the big moments in his career, I think is unmatched in pro cycling.
Yeah, I think also, can you say is like Ronaldo and Messi, and then you can't with Pogačar and Evenepoel at the same time. You have to appreciate both of them. I think you should not like compare them, if that makes sense. Just appreciate both of them.
It's something that everyone does, compare one to another. The amount of times we saw tables, Messi versus Ronaldo, goals scored, assists, goals, assist, involvements in a game. It's always like that, and
it's always going to be the case, isn't it?
Yeah, in cycling it's more difficult because you have and the classics specialization and Grand Tour specialization and time trial, and like Pogačar excels in Northern Classics because he won Tour of Flanders. He won Grand Tours. He's phenomenal in Grand Tour time trials. Comparing with that, Remco hasn't really shown himself in classics, but already won a Grand Tour. People forget that he won the Vuelta already. He did already win a Grand Tour. He won 2 times Liège-Bastogne-Liège, so that's a monument as well. And he excels in individual time trials outside and inside of a Grand Tour. So they are both phenomenal on their own way. And I hope the respect Pogačar gets slowly shifts towards Evenepoel as well, because they are both and other riders truly a gift for cycling right now.
Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing as well that both of those really respect each other. I think on Instagram you saw after the Olympics, Pogacar saying, like congratulating Remco on the win. Like, even though they are potentially the Messi and Ronaldo of cycling, they really like hanging out with each other or like interacting with one another. You would never see that in football or any other sport.
It must be said as well, the like friendliness and how nice everyone is to each other at the top level of cycling is. You don't see that anywhere, do you?
Well, let's not talk about Philipsen and Van Aert.
Well, nowadays, but like Philipsen and Van Aert, obviously they're a bit poof. Van Aert does well to control himself, let's say that, against Philipsen. But yeah, in terms of the Grand Tour riders, everyone is just nice with each other. It's great to see. But would you want people to be riled up against each other for the viewership?
No.
Some people want that, obviously, but
good for Netflix, but not good for the sport.
Idiots.
All right, let's actually go to the women's race before we're just rambling on Remco again for this amount of time.
Remco propaganda channel.
Honestly, it's turning into that. I love it, but it's probably not good for Domestique as a brand. We'll start the review from the women's race the same way as we did our live with 50Ks to go. That's really when the racing kicked off. With a crash from Chloe Dygert at the foot of Montmartre. That basically caused massive gaps in the peloton, with a lot of favorites caught behind. And also the deciding moment in the race, as Kopecky was, basically everyone who was ahead of Dygert at that crash was able to follow an attack, and the only person who was behind that crash was Kopecky that was actually able to make it back to the front of the race at some point. So, huge moment.
Dygert crashed for the second time in a week. She crashed in a time trial as well. She was suffering a lot with knee pain. We saw post-race in that individual time trial. She crashes now again. I think her main goal is on the track later this week. So yeah, the confidence from her will be quite low, I assume.
I'm very surprised as well she even raced the road race, because how many times she even crashed there? Poof. She took a massive hit on the knee. Obviously, you mentioned that in the time trial. And you may as well, if you're hurt and you have other goals in the track, you may as well. Should she have skipped the road race? No, but like it's the road race, isn't it? So.
But and she sort of helped Faulkner getting the win. It's like it's a bit cruel to say that, but that created Kopecky to fatigue quite a bit, and Wiebes, etc. weren't able to come back. So it wasn't intentional, of course, the crash, but it helped Faulkner in some way.
I do also have to say that Dygert, after the crash, showed really incredible form to come back, because she's still for a while, and then actually was able to come back to the group with Vollering, and did an insane effort there to ride away from that. So she definitely had the form to do a really good result, but that crash just set her back massively. You already mentioned it. Wiebes had a mechanical, and then with that gap of about 30 seconds opening up to the front of the race after first climb of Montmartre, Vollering had to empty the tank, but that was basically race over. All right, up front we then have that group of, I'm just going to the full complete Team GB. That was honestly very impressive, with Georgie, Danen, and then we Vos and Vos. I always say them in those order. I think that's lovely to say. Then we have Mavi Garcia, Lach, Faulkner, Roig, Longo Borghini, and Lippert, and then of course Kopecky joined them as well. And then, basically that group. Is there any surprising names that made the cut?
Not really, to be fair. All the names in that group showed more than decent form through the season. I expected maybe I already fast forwarding a bit. I expected more from Longo Borghini maybe because she was in a pretty good form before entering the Olympic race, road race. But besides that, I don't think there are a lot of surprises in that group. Vos really showed she's a championships rider. She always seems to perform during those races more than you see in the season overall, because she's probably pushed into that domestique role within the SD Works ranks through the season. But yeah, she's still 22 years old, so it's nice to see that she's able to be in that group and then survive till the end.
Mm-hmm. She did sign a new contract, and I think with Vollering most likely leaving SD Works, she might take a step up and get more of a leader role. But what you're saying is right. She is definitely a championship rider. Just is able to turn it on for these big races, and usually just racing for a country, not for a team. Yeah. Should Team GB have done more with this numerical advantage, or did they get out everything they could?
They tried to do it with the Deanan attack. Could they have done more? I don't know how the legs felt at that point.
If you have the numbers, you can obviously, people are going to question it, aren't they? Let's be honest. And look at the if buts. So yeah, but yeah, it's still a great performance from them. Ooh.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And if I look at the end result, a 5th place for Georgie is a very respectable result. In the background, Rebus attacks on the second climb of Montmartre in a basically last ditch attempt. This podcast is coming too long. I can't speak anymore. To bridge over, Nibia Doma goes with her, and I think Anderson from Sweden as well. And in the end, Nibia Doma, well, I think she had a very strong race as well in the background, kind of underrated. But she ended up catching quite a lot of that group that ended up riding away, or at least Longo Borghini and both British riders. So
as well.
Exactly. I think Martalach even domestiqued for her for a little bit.
Yep.
So honestly, really impressive ride from Kasia. I'm a bit of a fan, but sadly it was also a bit too late in the race to really get into any position where she could win or get medals. So in the front, there's just attacks after attacks. It's kind of really interesting attacking racing. I thought it was one of the more interesting women's championships that I've seen in a long time. You have the British duo Danen and Henderson getting dropped, but then kind of sneaking their way back in and just going straight over top with a really big attack from Danen. And Voss just jump onto the wheel, and that was a really important moment of the race where they saw the danger and just went for it. Of course, the next uphill section, Dane gets dropped, and those two find each other perfectly and start a double TT. On the last ascent of Montmartre, Faulkner accelerates with Kopecky in the wheel. I think that effort to drop the rest of the group, I expected Kopecky to go there, but basically Faulkner did the whole effort.
I think that move showed how strong Faulkner was in that race, and it showed as well that Kopecky already had to dig deep to bridge solo towards that group, because Faulkner was at the front of the two for the most part of the Montmartre climb. She did the most part of it at the front. So at that moment, some of us or the watcher at that moment at that time realized that Faulkner was very strong. Phenomenal to see actually how she rode that climb. But then we had the 2v2 TT, and I had a feeling that was some sort of tactical fight. or I don't know how you guys saw it, because it was like always so close, but still it wasn't really closed down completely.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys thought it was more of a tactical choice to not close it down, or was it just not able to close it down completely?
I think the tactical plays came mainly from Kopecky, who was probably trying to save her legs a little bit for the sprint and hoping that that Faulkner just closed the gap for her. But Faulkner said it as well in her interview afterwards. Like, she felt that Kopecky was playing some games, but that she forced her to close the gap, because in the end, if they don't close the gap, Kopecky can't sprint for the win. So I think Faulkner just, yeah, was the smarter of the two, and went out from her own strength and said, well, I'll just close the gap and then do my thing. But in the end, like they close a 30-second gap, and then with 3 kilometers to go, they catch them. And Faulkner's wastes no time, does she? She just sits on for 100 meters, if even that, and
Yeah.
then bomb, gone.
And it's not like I saw a lot of comments saying, well, why didn't the others jump on the wheel straight away? But you saw Kopecky was recovering. She was already reloading her batteries a little bit to get that final dash to the line. She was already quite cooked. I think Vos and Vos were already pretty cooked as well, because they tried to stay away with the two of them. So I don't think it was a choice to let Faulkner go or get that 5 meters, 10 meters, but it was more like, yeah, we aren't really able to, or maybe we are able to, but that's really our last bit of energy that we have in our legs. When you saw the sprint for silver, it was like a dead swan sprint. They were all completely gone. It wasn't like there was a lot of power left for any of the three. So yeah, why didn't they jump on Faulkner wheel? For me, I think it was because they weren't able to, because Faulkner extended her gap massively. Of course, they weren't really riding behind her, but still, she's an excellent time trialist as well, the Americans. So yeah,
I think it's also the person who would jump into the gap would also be the person who would lose the ensuing sprint, because they had done their effort.
yeah,
So it's kind of like, do you close that gap and then basically ensure that you're going to lose the sprint if you do close it? It's a lose-lose situation, and just tactical masterclass from Faulkner to just go straight away.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's going to happen, isn't it? If you're not going to want to waste all of your energy for pointless, isn't it? Just playing the second or third.
It's like the race winning move in the men's and women's race was a strategic masterclass. The attack from Evenepoel was timed perfectly, and attack from Faulkner was timed perfectly as well. Not at the same moment in the race, of course, but still the racecraft that those two had to win the gold medal on the Olympics was lovely to see, and that's why we love cycling for that moment.
Yeah, sometimes you just have people winning with brute power. I think Van der Poel last year in Glasgow, that was a win on pure power. Didn't have that much to do with racecraft. That was just power.
Got a dog in him.
Exactly. And here we just saw very clever racing. Very different, but equally entertaining. We have Vos taking silver, Kopecky taking bronze, and then Vos with heartbreak left behind with a 4th place. It's always such a shame in the Olympics that someone has to take 4th, and a young rider at 22. Yeah, I do feel bad for her.
But let it sink in for a second. Marianne Vos is 37 years old. She gets silver on the Olympics in Paris 2024. She was first-time world champion in 2006. That's 18 years ago. Quick maths, I think. Yeah. It's phenomenal. She keeps on digging in her own mind to stay on motivated to be amongst the best in the pro peloton. Like the generations she saw, through her career, she was able to stick with it. The women's racing became more and more professional. Power numbers went up. Training was more professional. Food, what they were eating was more professional, and she was able to keep up with all those steps to still be at the top so much more years later. I think
I mean,
it's insane, and she's an exceptional rider, and she's promotion still at this age for women's racing.
I think with men's racing, we've just had the GOAT argument. With men's racing, we can have that argument. I think in women's racing, there is no argument. Marianne Vos is the GOAT, and I don't think there's anyone trying to argue against that.
I hope not.
It'd be extremely wrong. All right, let's have a couple of thoughts on the tiny teams that we saw at this Olympics. It was super refreshing format, but do you think it was leading to more attractive racing, or was it a detriment to the race?
I still think it's a bit stupid to race the tiny teams, in my opinion, because if you had stronger teams, then you'd see attacks on even further out, a stronger breakaway, and it's the Olympics. You should have it should be a pinnacle kind of thing, but not like on the same level as the Tour de France. People say obviously the cycling road is not up to that level, but and it also definitely would impact the race if there was bigger teams. The tinier teams, you've seen everyone was sitting around that slow pace with the breakaway, would go up to 15 minutes. So yeah, I think they need to at least make it. What would you say? How many riders per team minimum?
I think
Even for the smaller nations, three maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how much exactly, but I think you need to have the size of a normal bunch.
Yeah.
In other races, because now we had a 170k snooze fest as well. It really kicked off with a 100k to go. Like you were DMing me on Discord saying,
I was just
literally nothing happened. I took
I
over
just
the
sat
live.
there.
Yeah, I took over the live a half an hour sooner than I was expected to do it, and I didn't put a single tweet on because nothing happened. I wished there was more of attractive racing because of the small bunch, but it's a typical pro cycling to have such a bunch. It's weird for the riders, it's weird for the spectators. It doesn't bring any more attractive racing. It didn't bring any more attractive racing, and maybe if the bunch and the teams were bigger, then that 1.5 move from Evenepoel wouldn't have been enough, because now there was only Van Baarle who domestiqued a bit. But then if you time it very well with such a small bunch, it's easier to create a gap than you have full teams like a Tour de France, for example.
Yeah, with that length and the parcours, 273 kilometers, with that size of the bunch is crazy. Because I do want to mention the parcours as well. The parcours was brilliant. The course designer, whoever did it, maybe it can feature in Tour de France, or it should get its own mini race really. But
I definitely think the ASO was watching it, thinking,
ASO is definitely. They've got the binoculars out there watching. They are seeing that money-making scheme there.
Stage 21 in the Tour de France 2026. It's already designed.
I think they actually genuinely would cave in and do it.
Yeah,
especially with how I think very successful.
Yeah. But I think the Olympics has to choose, or they keep the small bunch and make the race less long, so only a bit more than 200 Ks, for example, or they make the bunch bigger and they really create some sort of monument race, the monument distance, Milan-San Remo, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. But you can't do it both for me. And I'm mentioning the same after seeing the race. It's one thing or the other, and not the combination like we saw this year.
I think it's a really interesting thing where, cycling, like regular pro cycling, is a team sport, but the Olympics felt a lot more like an individual sport because it much faster became one rider versus one rider, or just it was individuals rather than teams. Although you do have Van Aert neutralizing attacks for Evenepoel, but it just felt more like an individual sport than
Yeah,
regular
I
cycling.
agree.
But I don't personally think that's a bad thing. I think
But like
that's how very strong individuals come forward.
I think it also is beneficial to the stronger nations. Obviously, it's very, very unfair on the smaller nations. We obviously in Eritrea, they only had Gurmai. Eritrea is an up-and-coming cycling nation. If they could have 2 or 3 riders extra there, Norway as well, quite as actual kind of big cycling nation in terms of the success with only 2 riders there. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Team GP's also was very small, was it? Or was it the same
No,
size
there
as
were
Belgium?
4. Yeah.
Or
Yeah, but like it's unfair, isn't it, to have 4 riders and then having 1 rider? I just
yeah,
I mean, like the countries like Eritrea, I think in coming years or in 4 years' time, they'll probably have more riders because if Binyam Girmay takes more UCI points, that means more riders
it
at the
just
start of the Olympics.
it just shouldn't come down to that though. At the end of the day, it's just it's a bit
All right.
mean. It is a bit
but
mean, isn't it?
I don't know how long we want to extend this podcast a bit. Yeah, how long do we want to extend it? But still, um, one last thing. Patrick Lefevre 2 days or 3 days before the Olympics mentioned me as a team manager of Sudal Quickstep. I gain nothing from these Olympics. The only thing I have to do is pay an extra bonus to Remco Evenepoel because he wins again. Um, does that have to change that sponsors of teams and teams in general get more visibility in an Olympic race? That it can be considered as a real goal, a real target for all riders, or do you think it should stay separate the Olympic race without the sponsorships from the
Uh,
regular season?
you see, in I guess another correlation to football. Yeah, you see when football players go on international duty, all the football clubs get paid themselves by FIFA. So like some sort of compensation from the governing body to the
Mm.
teams should probably be introduced, I think, because it's taking up a lot, like the preparation and stuff like that for the Olympics takes up a lot of time, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it does. But I think with the Olympics being a neutral thing, or it's meant to be a neutral thing, not monetized by teams or brands, that it probably should stay that way. And also will. The IOC is not going to change any rules around this.
Yeah.
They're doing this across all sports. With cycling, it is a little bit different because of the way that brand teams work and the length that's needed to prepare. I don't think the IOC is going to change on this.
yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but regular cycling consists of money that sponsors put in. Um, like that's the whole wrong thing about pro cycling at this moment, that it's sponsored that has to pay everything, and it's not like the prize money is that high. But that's an all other discussion. And then you have an Olympic title, an Olympic fight with how much spectators, 500,000 plus on the road, and even more, a couple of millions on the television. I think IOC or whatever how you call it should look into the fact to allow it, because cycling is all about that private sponsors, in my
But at
opinion.
the end of the day, then if they paid cycling people, then obviously everyone else would be lining up in the queue outside, won't they, from other sports? So it's a slippery slope they have to
Yeah,
balance.
yeah, I
And
know.
also, I don't feel too bad for Patrick Lefevre because now he can use the Olympic champion in his promotional material for the team for next year. So
It's a
he
And
win.
gets to monetize
It's
it a
a
little
win.
bit.
and private sponsors are benefited. The photo from Evenepoel at the finish line, that was promotion for Specialized, S-Works, there isn't any better sort of promotion than that.
Oh no, they couldn't even pay to get that level of promotion.
No, so
It's perfect.
yeah.
And then I had one more question, and then we'll end this very long podcast. Racing with earpieces. We raced without them here. Benefit or not?
Other bullshit that they can ride with earpieces.
It's not flipping 1930s, is it? Let's be honest, as well. And then it's stupidity. Like they want to limit technological advances, and then also it's a big. I think it's also a safety issue by not having earpieces because, for example, you could see, I don't know, what's a good, if someone crashed very severely and then they had no idea. I think also you've seen
the Warrenscheld crash.
Yeah. Warrenscheld, yeah, that's actually what I mentioned there. Warrenscheld, the team car just drove past him.
Yeah, they didn't see him, they didn't know he crashed, so they just drove past. That's insane. Race over.
The poor fella, man, his bike was just hanging off.
If they don't want to allow technical advantages, then I think in the Olympic football tournament they can't use VAR or because it's a technical advantage for the opposition.
And this race without earpieces, the UCI keep wanting to trial it as well, don't they? So yeah,
I
think they're testing it out in Burgos this week as well.
I'm sure they are.
Really?
Yeah. And also the flipping, what is it? Yellow cards.
The yellow card system, yeah. I don't think Jasper Philipsen is racing this month, is he?
Red card.
No. I think the earpieces, there's really no reason to not have them. I think riders just purely for a safety perspective, they need them.
It always is about safety. It should be.
Yeah, safety does come first. All right. Any closing remarks to end off this podcast?
No. Christoph, 2 of 2. That's what I'm going to say. 2 of 2. Come on.
Have you seen the opposition eating?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. 2 of 2. 2 of 2. A win is a win. Enjoy. Thank you.
He's literally the only one who was speaking for that race.
No. He's just carrying his form from the Tour de France. 2 podiums. But yeah, also.
Anyway, let's close off this
podcast.
I've been Bram. I've been joined by Ethan and Eve. That's a wrap for today's Domestique Cycling Podcast. A big thank you for our audience, to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi. The link's in the description. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.